hear the word dangerous and think of red flags, tricks, and games. Forget that. The most dangerous psychological technique to make a woman chase you is dangerous for one reason only. It dismantles every needy instinct you've been taught, flips the frame of the interaction, and forces you to become the kind of man who can be pursued without pretending. It doesn't hack her, it rewires you. When you live it, you won't grab for attention, you won't over-explain your worth, and you won't drown quiet moments with frantic energy. You'll do something far more unsettling to your old self and magnetic to her. You'll become a man who is both scarce and abundant at the same time. Scarce in access, abundant in life. That paradox pulls on the deepest levers of desire. It's not a trick, it's a signal. And signals, not speeches, are what the human brain trusts. If you want to name it, call it the inversion. For most men, desire flows outward while validation flows in. They chase because they think attention purchased in bulk eventually equals attraction. It never does. The inversion flips the equation. You root your attention inside your purpose, your standards, and your rhythm of life. From that grounded place, you extend presence, real presence, not performative noise, only where there is reciprocal investment. You don't withhold love, you withhold self-betrayal. You don't punish with silence, you protect your focus. You don't create jealousy, you create gravity. And gravity doesn't need to explain itself, it simply pulls. When you embody this, a woman feels it like weather. She doesn't just notice you, she organizes around you. Not because you bent her will, but because your will stopped bending. What makes this technique dangerous is the temptation to imitate the surface and ignore the substance. A boy can copy the pauses and the slower replies and the selective disclosures and still reek of need, because imitation is a mask and masks leak desperation. A man changes the root system. He builds a life that already satisfies him. He polishes the inner lens through which he sees himself. He decides what he is unavailable for, then he lives it without a speech. That's the only way the inversion works. When Erich Fromm wrote about love flowing from fullness rather than emptiness, he wasn't writing a pickup line. He was describing the only soil where attraction can take root without turning toxic. You don't starve her of attention to increase her hunger. You nourish your mission so that your attention naturally becomes rare and meaningful. The rarity is a byproduct, not a performance. You start by understanding why chasing collapses desire. Neediness is not an emotion, it's a frame. It announces that someone else controls the price of your time. You can be generous, warm, romantic, and still needy if your generosity is a payment for approval. Her nervous system picks up the difference instantly. You can say the same words, send the same message, sit in the same restaurant, and the impact changes entirely based on the posture beneath it. The inversion changes posture. It centers the frame around a simple truth. You are evaluating fit while you are being evaluated. Scarcity appears not because you are withholding affection, but because you are already busy being someone. Women feel safer and more alive around a man who is someone. He doesn't treat access to him like a public utility. He doesn't collapse his week to audition for affection. He leads with clarity, and clarity is erotic. Purpose is the foundation. Not the social media version, but the lived structure of your days. When a woman meets a man whose calendar reflects a mission, she relaxes and leans forward at the same time. Relaxation because consistency is a sign of safety. Forward because meaning is magnetic. Viktor Frankl didn't frame meaning as a luxury. He described it as the axis around which human strength turns. You don't need a heroic narrative. You need direction and repetition. You know what you're building this quarter. You know how tomorrow fits into that. You know when you train, when you work, when you study, when you rest. You know what you say yes to without guilt and what you say no to without apology. You are not rigid, you are rhythmic. This rhythm is what gives your attention weight. A message from a drifting man is gusty air. A message from a man with rhythm is oxygen. Attention then becomes your most valuable currency. You stop making it cheap. You sharpen it. When you're with her, fully there, eyes present, distractions minimized, curiosity engaged. When you're not with her, you're not half with her through a constant drip of low-grade validation. This is where many men panic. They confuse depth with duration. They assume more messages create more connection. They don't. Depth creates connection. Depth requires space between notes. Music dies in noise. Attraction dies in availability without intention. You reply when it makes sense for your day and for the momentum you're both building, not to suppress your anxiety. You don't ghost because you're not a child. You pace because you are a man. That pacing fuels curiosity. Curiosity is the engine of pursuit. Blaise Pascal observed that the mind chases what it cannot fully hold. You make that true by living a life that cannot be fully consumed in a single conversation. Maturity is your silent amplifier. Emotional regulation isn't about numbing, it's about choice. Jealousy will visit you. It visits everyone. You let it knock. You don't hand it the keys. When anxiety tells you that a delayed reply is a verdict, you breathe, you return to your routine, you choose action over rumination. When anger rises after a slight, you don't unleash paragraphs. You articulate a standard. Boundaries are the outline of your dignity. Set them once, honor them always, repeat them rarely. You don't educate someone into respecting you. You demonstrate how you live and leave when it's incompatible. That isn't punishment, it's alignment. Women don't chase cruelty, they chase congruence. Congruence is the calm power that comes from being the same man in private and in public, online and offline, lunch and midnight. The inversion's heartbeat is control of the frame, not dominance, not debate team theatrics, not clever comebacks. It is the quiet decision to set the rules of your world and invite people in on those terms. If a plan gets vague, you give it a spine, 2 options, 1 preference, and a time limit. If the conversation spirals into low-res drama, you bring it back to clarity. What do we both want, and what does behavior need to look like for that to work? If there's a test, a last-minute cancellation, a flirt with disrespect, you neither grovel nor explode. You recognize the moment for what it is, and you respond with standards. You do not threaten consequences, you embody them. That embodiment is the dangerous part. It reveals who's real, fast. Most men resist this because it shrinks the pool of potential partners. Let it shrink. Desire concentrates when the pool gets smaller and the water gets deeper. Mystery is the contour that makes your presence 3-dimensional. Not secrecy born of insecurity, but selective disclosure born of self-possession. You reveal your world in chapters, not in a data dump. You share the project that has your attention this month and what it's teaching you, rather than a monologue about your entire past. You allow silence to stretch 2 beats longer than comfort requires, because you know that comfort grows in breath, not in babble. You keep certain rituals sacred, morning training, evening, reading a weekly review with your future self, because not everything is a performance for an audience, and the parts of your life that remain for you are what keep you interesting to others. Carl Jung wrote about the power of the unseen, the shadow and the symbol. You don't need to quote him. You embody the principle by not spilling your entire map on the first mile. You leave room for discovery because there is more to discover. Competence is the visible proof that your standards apply to yourself first. The body you care for is not vanity. It is a signal that you can carry your own weight in a world that's heavy. The craft you sharpen, coding, carpentry, finance, teaching, medicine, music, design, doesn't have to be famous, it has to be real. Reps are evidence. Evidence breeds calm. Calm breeds charisma. When you've kept promises to yourself before sunrise, your presence after sunset changes. You become the rare person whose confidence doesn't need an audience. Friedrich Nietzsche noted that humans tire more from lack of meaning than from effort. Competence married to meaning lowers the kind of fatigue that makes you cling. Your grip loosens, your gaze steadies, your humor returns. It's hard to chase anyone when you're busy building. It's even harder to be ignored when you're busy becoming. Now let's enter the trenches where this technique either lives or dies. First contact, texting, dates, conflict, escalation, and distance. You meet her. Maybe it's at a friend's dinner, maybe a bookstore aisle, maybe after a talk you both attended. You don't audition. You make contact like someone who trusts his vibe. You observe something specific, not generic. You ask a question that invites a real answer, not a checklist response. You aren't pressed to impress. You're engaged. When you end the conversation, you end it before it decays. If you exchange numbers, you message with intention, not to keep a balloon in the air. You suggest a plan that reflects your rhythm. Tuesday or Thursday, early evening, there's a spot with a quiet corner. I'll be there at 7. If that's too tight for this week, tell me what works on your side. That sentence carries leadership without pressure, choice without chaos, and a subtle reminder that you have a schedule. Texting reveals your frame more than any single date. The average man tries to maintain momentum by feeding constant microdoses of attention. The inversion refuses. You allow momentum to be co-authored. You do not put the connection on life support alone. When you text, you advance the story. A question that can only be answered by someone paying attention. A reference to something she mentioned because you actually listened. A concrete plan. If she replies quickly and with investment, you meet it. If her energy drops into vague disengagement, you don't chase the withdrawal, you return to your life. Your silence is not a sulk, it's a return to center. 2 days later, you might ping with purpose again. If disengagement repeats, you recognize reality. You don't write a manifesto about standards, you live them by moving on without ceremony. You just taught your nervous system that you are not at the mercy of someone else's rhythm. That lesson is priceless. On the date, you craft the experience around presence, not performance. You pick a place where conversation can breathe. You arrive slightly early because rushing kills elegance. You sit like a man who trusts his spine. You ask about decisions, not just preferences. You notice how she treats the server, not to judge, but because character leaks in the smallest interactions. You share slices of your life that reveal values, not just victories. You laugh easily, especially at yourself. You end on a high beat, because endings tint memory. If there's chemistry, you let the energy speak. If there isn't, you still honor the evening with grace. You don't force a kiss to validate your appeal. You don't avoid it to protect your ego. You read the moment and you act like this one to be the last chance in your life because it won't be. That internal abundance kills the shakiness that makes men oversell. Conflict is where the inversion proves it's not a costume. She cancels last minute. Again, you don't swing between doormat and dictator. You articulate a boundary with warmth. You say that you plan your week carefully and need confirmed plans if this is going to work. Then you watch what happens, not just what she says. If behavior changes, great. If not, you step back without drama. You refuse to manage someone else's chaos. You also refuse to punish someone for being human. One misstep is life. A pattern is a decision. Your job is not to fix patterns, it's to recognize them. When you hold this line, 2 things happen. The wrong connections fall away faster. The right connections deepen because respect has room to grow. Respect is the soil desire needs if it's going to last longer than a weekend. Escalation, emotional, intellectual, physical, unfolds at a pace set by mutual desire, not by pressure. You don't sell, you invite. You don't collect moments for a highlight reel. You create moments because your attention is here. If you move closer, It's because it's real, not because you're trying to hit a milestone that social media certified as success. You anchor in consent. You keep the pace aligned with how you both feel, not what you think you should achieve tonight. Ironically, this patience often accelerates attraction. Restraint is rare, rare is valuable, valuable is pursued. Distance is where boys unravel. You will experience it. Life will interrupt momentum. Work trip, family crisis, a week of mismatched schedules. The needy man fills the gap with frantic taps on the glass. The inverted man communicates once, with clarity. This week's packed, I'll reach out Sunday and we'll set something for next. And then he disappears into his mission. On Sunday, he returns, like the kind of man who does what he says. This steadiness sends a message almost no one sends in a culture of addiction to instant. It says, I want you here. I don't need you to breathe. I keep my word, and I keep my world moving. That message is the one women call masculine. Not muscles, not money, not noise. Dependable momentum. All of this only works if you are brutally honest about your motives. If you attempt the inversion as a way to manipulate, your body will betray you. Your eyes will give you away. Your cadence will be off. Your humor will feel sharp instead of warm. Your boundaries will sting instead of steady. You will either become the man who doesn't sell himself, or you will cosplay him. Cosplay fails at scale. Becoming succeeds quietly. Robert Cialdini's work on scarcity is misused when men try to fake unavailability. Don't fake it. Create real priorities that outrank constant contact. When you do, your attention naturally becomes something a woman chooses to earn instead of something she expects to consume. That shift invites her investment. Investment changes who is chasing. You'll notice that this technique doesn't rely on scripts. It relies on identity. Identity is not a mantra, it's a stack of evidence. Evidence is built one promise at a time. You promise to wake early and train, you do. You promise to protect deep work from digital dopamine, you do. You promise to call your mother or mentor on Sunday, you do. You promise to say no when your body says no, you do. These small kept promises compound into a man whose presence says I am who I claim to be. That presence is the most dangerous force in the room because it makes other people confront their own excuses. Some will run, some will rise. The one who rises is the one who will chase, not because you deprive her, but because being near you raises her. Let's enter the psychology that makes a woman pursue without resentment. Exclusivity, competence, direction, emotional safety, challenge. A woman chases when she perceives that being chosen by you means something about her, not just about you. If anyone can have you, the meaning collapses. If having you costs her dignity, the meaning curdles. The sweet spot is when access to you is earned through congruence and effort, and when receiving your attention feels like a recognition of her value, not a reward for theatrics. She senses you are not buying peace with gifts and flattery. You're building peace with boundaries and initiative. She senses your life is moving and that she has to catch up to join, not slow you down to possess. She senses you won't collapse into her plans, but you will create plans and integrate her if you both fit. She senses you won't mirror her mood to avoid friction, but you'll hold a steady tone that calms friction. This is the mixture that turns admiration into action. Now the paradox you must swallow whole. The fastest way to make a woman chase you is to stop trying to make any woman chase you and start living like a man whose life is too full for pursuit and too open for connection. You don't get that by reading this once. You get it by orienting your days around becoming. You will have slip-ups. You will text too much one week because you felt that old fear of losing. You will agree to a plan that doesn't respect your schedule because you wanted the moment more than you wanted your mission. You will over-explain a boundary because you felt guilty for having one. Then you will catch yourself, smile and recalibrate. This is not a religion, it's a practice. The practice is simple, even if it isn't easy. Keep your standards when you're lonely. Keep your purpose when you're excited. Keep your humor when you're tested. Keep your presence when you're tempted to perform. Keep your word when no one would notice if you broke it. Keep your curiosity when it would be easier to judge. You might wonder what this looks like months in, not just in the first glow. It looks like a relationship where she still leans into you. Not because you dangle attention like a prize, but because your growth keeps creating new edges to explore. You're not a completed puzzle. You're a living story. You introduce her to parts of your world when it makes sense. You invite her into decisions where her view improves yours. And you refuse to make her your entire meaning, because meaning concentrated into a person becomes suffocation. You are most attractive to her when you remain attractive to yourself. You remain attractive to yourself when you keep building. The chase never becomes literal running. It becomes mutual pursuit of a life worth waking up inside. That's the long game. That's the only game worth playing. If you need a single sentence to carry into the next 7 days, let it be this: your attention is the most expensive thing you own. Spend it where it multiplies, not where it evaporates. Multiplication happens in deep work, honest friendships, training that humbles you, rituals that center you, and connections that invest back. Evaporation happens in endless scrolling, arguments with strangers, chasing people who love your attention more than they value your presence, and bargains you make with your own standards. Each decision is a vote for the man who is chased or the man who chases. Vote wisely, repeatedly, quietly. Tonight, as you close your eyes, make a vow that does not need witnesses. You will stop handing out your energy like a flyer. You will stop dialoguing with disrespect. You will stop negotiating your values to rent temporary affection. You will reserve your yes for what builds you and your no for what bleeds you. You will craft a week that supports this vow with schedules, not slogans. You will forgive yesterday's version of you who didn't know how. You will teach your nervous system that silence is not danger and that abundance can be calm. Tomorrow, you will pick one brick and lay it. A new boundary, a new habit, a harder set, a clearer plan, a cleaner room, a message sent with intention or not sent at all. Brick by brick, you'll realize the truth hiding inside the word dangerous. The world calls it dangerous when a man stops being available to everything. The right woman calls it irresistible when she discovers she still has to earn a place where almost no one gets in. And when she starts to invest, when she initiates plans, when she texts first, when she leans forward in conversation, when she chooses your rhythm over noise, when she asks deeper questions, when she shows with action that she wants to be in your world. Don't gloat like a boy who finally got picked. Welcome her like a man who finally met someone walking at his pace. Keep leading, keep laughing, keep choosing standards over spectacle. Keep being the paradox, scarce and abundant, selective and generous, grounded and light. That paradox is the most dangerous psychological technique because it is the only one that doesn't fracture you. It makes you whole. And wholeness is what the feminine chases when it's tired of chasing illusions.